Hello everybody, it's Miss Moran again, and I'm here to talk to you about our first unit of study. We're going to be working with factors, multiples, and prime numbers. For this week, we're going to be focusing mostly on factors, so I'm going to explain 4 key concepts that students are going to be expected to understand as it relates to factors. The first is that they can find factors of a number using an array model. So I'll start first with 12. So if I were talking about the number 12, I would want students to be able to take rows and columns equaling a total of 12 and put those into even rows and columns that have none left over. So we would expect students to be able to do one row of 12. We would expect them to be able to know that as an even number, 12 is always going to have 2 as a factor, so 2 rows of 6, which is 2 times 6, 3 rows of 4, we would expect them to see once they got to 4 that they'd already done 4. So this is going to be it for our set of factors for the number 12. Once we realize and get to a factor like doing 4 that I've already done it, then I know that I found them all. Now technically we could say that we could draw this again the other way and do, whoops, one too many, 4 rows of 3, not that one. We could do not 5, and it's important for students to understand also why numbers are not factors of certain numbers. So for like 5s, we would expect students to know that when I skip count my 5s, I would land on numbers that end in a 5 or a 0. That's not going to be 12. 6 is already included here. Again, I could do it going this way. 6 rows of 2. 7 is not going to work. I know that if I skip count my 7s, I hit 7 and then 14, so that's not going to work. 8 would be 8 and then 16. Really, after I get past my halfway point, I'm not going to have any factors larger than 6, which is half of 12. 10 is not going to work. Those are going to end in zeros, and 11 obviously would not work either. We could do 12 rows of 1. Okay, so these are all the factor pairs for 12, and I could list them out as well. So we're going to start with arrays. Eventually we want students to get to the point where they can list factors. So if I were to work with 18, we like them to always start with the smallest and the largest, and if they do this in a systematic way, then they're less likely to leave out some factors. So instead of just saying, oh, I know that 3 times 6 is 18. Yes, that's a factor pair, but let's start systematically with the smallest, and we're going to pair it with the largest. So 1 with 18. Okay, then I'm going to think 1 times 18 would be 18, and this is always one that's the easiest to remember and often the one that's forgotten. It's an even number, so we're always going to have 2. So 2 times 9, 3. 3 goes with 6. 4, if I skip count my 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. That skips over 18, so that won't work. We already talked about 5. 5 will not work because 5 would end in a, multiples of 5 end in a 5 or a 0. 5, 10, 15, 20. That skips over 18. 6 does work. 6 is already in my list, so once I find one that's already in my list, then I know that I've finished. So those are all of the factors of 18, and if I wanted to, I could match up my factor pairs like this as well. Okay, so that's how we find factors of a number. And there are an expectation that students would be able to do this for any number up to 100. We won't use those generally this high in class. We will do factors of 100, but not for every number up through 100. Common numbers, especially like your 12s and 18s and 24s and 30s and 36s, those are good numbers to practice your factors of, especially 36, which has a lot of them. 36 is a number that comes up a lot in math as well. Another skill that we're going to do is that students can find common factors. So if we are working with the numbers 12 and 18, which we already have here, we would say, I'm going to make a list of the factors of 12. So that is 1 with 12, 2, because it's an even number, with 6, and 3 with 4. And for 18, we have 1 and 18, 2 with 9, and 3 with 6. Okay, and then I would go through and I would say, what numbers are common factors of both of these? 1 is always going to be a common factor of every number, because all numbers can be multiplied by 1. Even numbers will always have 2 as common factors, because even numbers can always be split in half and are divisible by 2. Both of these have 3 as a common factor. They do not have 4 as a common factor, because I can do 4 times 3 to make 12, but I cannot do 4 times any number to make 18. Okay, 4 times some number will not equal 18. Okay, 5 is not a common factor of either of these. I cannot skip count my 5s and end on 12 or 18. It would have to be 15 or 20. 6 is a common factor because I can do 6 times 2 and 6 times 3. 9 is not a common factor, although it's a factor of 18. I cannot multiply 9 times some number to equal 12. It does not work. Okay, 12 is a factor of 12, but I cannot do 12 times some number to equal 18. And 18 obviously can't be a factor of 12 because it is larger. Okay, so our common factors here would be 1, 2, 3, and 6, which means that 12 and 18 can be divided by any of these numbers, or any of these numbers can be multiplied to equal 12 or 18. This becomes very important in finding common factors when you're looking into fractions and trying to simplify fractions, which we will be doing a couple chapters from now. So we want to practice that skill as well. One other skill that relates to factors is that students can recognize that a number is a multiple of its factors. So we would want students to know that yes, these numbers are factors of 12, but what that also means is that I can skip count these numbers and land on this. So if I skip count my 1s, obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 would land on that. If I skip count my 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 would work. If I skip count my 3s, 3, 6, 9, 12. If I skip count my 4s, 4, 8, 12. If I skip count my 6s, 6, 12. And obviously skip counting 12, so you're already starting on 12. Okay, so we want to understand that that a number is a multiple of its factors as well. Next week we're going to work more with multiples, and we just want to make sure students understand that multiples are what you get when you multiply. Factors are what you get actually when you divide. Even though many students will think multiplication for factors, factors are numbers that are multiplied to give us a product. But if we already have that product, like 12 and 18, then factors will also be divisible by those numbers as well. All right, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking 8 minutes, and I hope you use this week to help you with your homework on factors. All right, leave a comment. Thank you so much.